What if the Vladimir Putin you see on television isn't actually Vladimir Putin? The question sounds like tabloid nonsense, but forensic experts and intelligence analysts are taking it seriously. Because the man who rules Russia may be so terrified of death that he's created the ultimate deception. Body doubles, living his public life while he hides in bunkers. Putin's paranoia has escalated to bizarre levels. During the pandemic, he sat 6 meters away from French President Emmanuel Macron at a table so long it could launch rockets. He meets ministers through bulletproof glass, keeping them in solitary quarantine for weeks before any interaction. Food is pushed through doors, blood tests taken multiple times weekly. No one can approach without nasal swabs and endless medical screening. His most loyal officials stand at distances that would make an Indian Maharaja proud. This is a man who travels in an armored train because he's afraid to fly, has 3 identical offices so enemies can't track his location, and disinfects entire cemetery paths before walking on them. Putin fears microbes, assassins, energy fields, and apparently everything else that could threaten his grip on power. His isolation has become so complete that observers joke he should proclaim himself emperor and sit on a throne. But then something strange started happening. The same man who won't shake hands with ambassadors suddenly appeared driving cars through war zones. Putin behind the wheel in Mariupol, turning on his blinker, stopping at traffic lights. Putin shaking hands with generals and local residents. Putin walking around without his usual protective bubble, acting like contamination isn't his greatest fear. The contradiction prompted forensic specialists to analyze the footage. What they found was disturbing. Ear shapes that don't match, and ears are as unique as fingerprints, practically impossible to fake. Different chin structures between appearances, varying distances between eyes. Even his height seems to change, despite Putin typically wearing special shoes with hidden lifts to mask his short stature. German publication Bild consulted medical experts who concluded that biometric indicators simply don't match between different Putin appearances. The original Putin definitely appeared at meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping and when scolding officials in the Kremlin. But the person who made those dramatic frontline visits, the measurements don't add up. The behavioral evidence is equally compelling. Look at Putin's supposed visit to the repaired Crimean bridge after Ukraine bombed it in October 2022. He drives across the strategic target with minimal security and casually examines reconstruction work. For a man who disinfects everything he touches, this seems impossible. Then there's Mariupol, where the absurdity reaches Kafka-like levels. Putin allegedly flies in at night, though viewers never see him board or exit the helicopter. He drives through empty streets, carefully using turn signals like someone who doesn't drive often. When he arrives at newly constructed housing, what happens next defies belief. In the middle of a painted playground, under streetlights, Deputy Prime Minister Marat Kusnulin sets up a wooden office desk. Right there, on the playground equipment, he shows Putin colored pictures of reconstruction projects like there was nowhere else in the entire city to hold this meeting. Where are the crowds? Where are the grateful residents welcoming their supposed liberator? Instead, there's zombie apocalypse footage. Empty streets, vacant buildings, a university supposedly serving 6,000 students but containing not a single person. When locals do appear, they seem scripted, with one person apparently shouting from behind that it's all staged. The resident who invites Putin upstairs has everything mysteriously prepared. Cups set out, tables ready, though Putin touches nothing, maintaining his usual fear of contamination. Compare this to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's frontline visits, where crowds immediately recognize him, pull out phones, and create dozens of unauthorized videos. Putin's visits feature exactly one camera, often filming from behind, where any body double would be hardest to identify. The visit to Kherson Oblast perfectly illustrates the pattern. Putin supposedly traveled 150 kilometers from the actual front, well outside weapons range, to meet with Generals Roman Lapin and Mikhail Makarevich. Notably absent were Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Chief of Staff Valery Gerasimov, the two people who should be reporting on military operations. The generals behave strangely, barely making eye contact. Either they were ordered not to breathe in his direction, or they don't consider this person worth their attention. Putin then presents the generals with what he calls a wonder working icon, opening it like a care package. The scene feels theatrical, especially when Putin mentions that Easter is soon, despite the visit occurring the Monday after Easter had already passed. But here's the critical question. If Putin really uses body doubles, why not send them to the actual front lines? The propaganda value would be immense, and if the double died, Putin could simply resurrect and claim divine protection. Instead, these visits stay safely in rear areas with minimal witnesses. This leads to two equally plausible explanations. First, that Putin's paranoia has reached such extremes that he employs doubles for any public appearance, using makeup, prosthetics, and careful camera work to maintain the illusion. Modern film techniques could easily create a convincing double for brief, controlled appearances, especially when shot mostly from behind in poor lighting. The second explanation is more disturbing, that the isolated, misinformed Putin occasionally breaks out of his bunker to see reality with his own eyes. Like a medieval king in disguise, he ventures into the contaminated world to verify whether his subordinates are lying. He visits the bridge to confirm it was actually repaired. He goes to Mariupol to see if construction money was stolen. He meets with generals because he believes Shoigu and Gerasimov are deceiving him about the war's progress. In this scenario, Putin sees himself as heroic, risking exposure to microbes and energy fields to gather intelligence, but only in the safest possible way. Empty spaces, minimal contact, outdoor meetings where contamination is less likely. The complete absence of crowds isn't a cover-up. It's exactly how Putin would arrange any public appearance. Whether Russians are seeing doubles or a deeply paranoid dictator, the implications are terrifying. Putin's behavior has moved far beyond normal security precautions into severe psychological dysfunction. His decision-making is compromised by isolation, misinformation, and clinical paranoia. This is the man controlling nuclear weapons and waging war across Europe. History shows that isolated dictators inevitably lose touch with reality. Soviet leader Joseph Stalin's paranoia nearly cost the Soviet Union World War II. Putin's version may be even more dangerous, because unlike Stalin, he has convinced himself that technology can solve the ultimate problem, death itself. A man who believes he can live forever, whether through bioprinting or body doubles, has already demonstrated he will sacrifice any number of lives to maintain his grip on power. So the next time you see Putin on television, ask yourself, are you watching a dictator or his shadow? The answer may determine not just Russia's future, but the world's.